Alright, so here's a picture that I have to explain an idea that I've been kind of understanding recently. Now, usually I would use the idea of like 10 levels, or maybe we could have the individual chakras or something to explain levels of life, right? Like you would assume if you're at the bottom, you are trying to survive. Everything is physical, hard, difficult. It's all about just trying to find water and food, essentially. If you're in the middle, then you are at a social level, right? So you have to talk to people, you have to network, you have to learn how to interact in the social world. And then finally, if you're at the top, you are learning how to interact mentally with everything or intellectually. So chances are this is people who are working like difficult intellectual jobs, engineers, or like the political class or high level business owners. These are people who their words and their thoughts are what dictate everything in their life. Now, I'll go into this a little more. So as you can see, I've color coded it and I've coded it with words. So, and I've also put this as a human body. So you can see this is the head, the throat, the chest, and the lower body, like the belly and the lower body here, right? And we have lower, which equals the physical world or physical things. We have middle, which equals the social world or social things. And then we have upper, which is the mental world or the mind. And then, of course, I've broken these into three individual things here, which says lower, middle, upper, lower, middle, up. So there's the lower of the lower world, which is this, and there is the middle of the lower world and the upper of the lower world. So maybe if we did it numerically, this would be like 1, 2, 3, and then it's like 1, 2, 3, and again 1, 2, 3. We could say like 2.1, 2.2, or we could even do the opposite and just say 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, if we wanted to do it mathematically. And then, of course, I've added some symbols here. You have a downward triangle, you have a circle, and an upward triangle, just to show up, down, and kind of in the middle or neutral. This M is actually meant to be an N. Excuse that, I've screwed that up. There we go. Looks a little better. That's a bit better now. And also we have difficulty levels. So inherently, if you are on the lowest level, it is the most difficult. While the middle level is neutral and the upper level is actually fairly easy. Now, to explain how this works, inherently everyone is actually is born with one of these levels as the strongest. And that means that's kind of always the person you are. Like social people who are naturally social are born kind of here. People who are very physical, very in the world, usually they're born around here. People who are mental, who are always like on computers or like reading and writing and like maybe doing creative stuff are inherently around here. But life will force you to start at the bottom and slowly go up. At least I think if you're a man, I think women inherently kind of will start their societal journey in the middle and will either go down or up depending on their good or bad choices. To an extent, that could happen to men. But usually as a man, you have to work on the lower areas of my experience, so I can't, don't exactly know for the other side. But anyway, in my experience, what I found is that so the lower levels in the first one here, so 1 of 1 is essentially the idea in these lower levels. So the first of the first, or the first, I just put this to the second, and the first of the third. My understanding is that you are trying to endure stress, essentially. Take on and endure stress, because the more stress you take on, the more that you can then endure later on, for example. And specifically, this one is about taking on physical stress. So if you're at this level, life will force you to take on physical stress, and that will actually uh, forcefully strengthen or break your body. So the way to get above this level, to conquer it, is to get a stronger body. That's probably one of the best ways. Or to find a way to like reduce stress. Also, it's based on physical and material possessions. So the more possessions you have, tools or something to reduce stress, so you don't have to do things in a difficult way. For example, at the lowest level here, just say you wanted to like farm, you wanted to till the soil, you would be doing it with your hands. And if you found a rock to then, scrape the earth with a rock, or like a big stick, you would have slightly gone up. Maybe if you had like a shovel or a plow or a hoe or something, you've kind of gone to level 2 here. And then if you have like some kind of automatic device, like an auto plow, or like I don't know, a cow and a plow, then you've gone to like level 3 of 1, right? So this is essentially, you level up this level by um, physically improving yourself, and also getting more material possessions that help you in life, that reduce stress, but also give you more leverage, so allow you to um, do more with less power. It's like if you could click a button and, I don't know, food could be cooked. Like that's a reduction of stress from having to put food in a pot or a pan and water in it, and chop everything up, and so that's a lower thing. So, and some people actually never experience this. So you'll see people who are not very physically fit or strong have never experienced these lower levels. And also, certain countries will relate more to the lower world, where people have to do more strenuous and stressful things. Now, the middle level is when you've kind of adjusted to the lower level, which is lots of stress and pain and lots of new things, right? So when you're at this middle level 2 here, this middle of the lower stage, and the neutral stage, whatever you want to call it, you've adjusted somewhat. It's still difficult, and you still have things to learn, but it's not like every day you're just learning constantly. Every couple days or every week or whatever, you'll learn something new, but it's not just like constant learning experience. And you also will be expected to make less mistakes. And again, the way to pass this, to keep going up, is to just keep accumulating goods, accumulating experience, accumulating strength, accumulating just stuff, I guess, And then finally, level 3 is when you kind of like the king of the underworld, so to speak. You've conquered the physical levels to an extent. Of course, you haven't conquered it until you've gone to the middle social level here. But at this level 3 of the physical lower level, you are learning to conquer, and it's more of a, as I said here, it says easy. So this is difficult, neutral, easy for the middles, difficult, neutral, easy for the uppers. This is not an exceptionally difficult level or anything like that. The upper ones, like this one, I can't speak from experience of all of these, because I haven't done all of these, right? But I would assume they're not exception. They're not very difficult, the way the neutral ones aren't as difficult as the lower ones. Still, there is difficulty to it. While the third one is more you're like the king of that world, so to speak. So at this point, for example, if you were working in some kind of job, you know the job inside and out. You have all of the tools. Physically, you're physically very fit. You've got all of the stuff you need, and it's just like everything's routine because you've done it, and it's essentially it's a preparation for the next level. And of course, at this point, financially, you should be able to make enough money to push yourself up to the next level, because all these bottom levels, financially, these finances or money is very important. People who get exceptionally poor, like again, this is the lower class here. The middle class is this green area, and the upper class is this blue area, right? So people who fall down to the lower class because of poverty issues and such fall down to these areas here. And physically, these relate to different parts of the body. We can see number one of the lower areas is the root, so it's essentially the bowels, the buttocks, the legs, or the feet. It's the lowest part of the body. Subjectively, you could say maybe potentially the genitals. Number two is the bladder, the hips, the weight of the body, which is like the pelvis. The pelvis is like the heavy part of the body, so the center of gravity. It's because it's really heavy. So if you kind of fling your pelvis around, it sounds funny, but you use your legs in like martial arts to push and to direct yourself. There's a lot of power from there. So that's physically where this area is. And then number three is the small intestinal region, kind of below the belly, or the navel. Though debatably, this is like right here at this point is the navel. And then you can think like the rib cage is like, is like this, right? So, and so the kidneys would the kidneys be at this level, at the social level, number one, or would they be at the lower level, number three? They could be maybe potentially kind of in between, you could say. I'm not exactly sure. That's maybe like I guess technically the kidneys are like the because they are an upper organ, so probably we'd put them here. But at the same rate, they are the balancing scale, so it's like the portal between the lower and the upper worlds. You could maybe say. I don't really know. So anyway, we then move on to the middle social level, which is that eventually life forces you into social experiences, because when you have developed enough of the lower area, which is again finances, physique, money, possession. So this would be like a vehicle, car, bike, whatever, tools. Essentially, you are no longer taking on physical stress or having to do things physically. You are doing things socially. So instead of like cooking your own food or growing your own food or hunting it or having to stress to get it, it's like you're buying it. You're buying people to cook it for you, or it's somehow you're getting it through a social means. Of course, in modern society, even in the lower physical world, you would still be buying it at a shop. But maybe you would be buying like the cheapest, most bulk food ever. And then when you hit this social level, you're buying something a little different, maybe a little better quality, right? Or you change shops or something. And then you would think in the upper mental level, you can finally buy that like expensive cut of meat, or like, buy the good brand or whatever, right? Because you got the money to. So from this, of level two of the social middle level and of the bottom rank, we'll call these ranks, all right? We'll say these major ones are levels, and then the minor ones are ranks. So the first rank of the second level, which means the lower region, the ribs. This is also the liver. You got to think the liver, and I guess technically that would be yeah, that's like the liver, and then like the stomach. These also relate to this area here. You can think like the upper area, the lungs are more like pure. So it's like the lungs is the upper area, the heart is like the middle, and then the liver and like stomach and kidneys is more like lower, and the kidneys is definitely the lowest. So anyway, at this rank one, this is actually where I currently am. I found myself recently. It took me a long, long time to get here. Um, but what I found is that the goal of this area is to just acquire social stress, is the best way to say it. You are learning to navigate and kind of negotiate in a social environment. So you're taking on a lot of stress. You're out in the world usually, and what happens, I find, is that it's almost like you're put into the same way with level one, rank one. You're put into all these physical experiences that are very difficult. Again, the difficulty level is high, right? Here, you're put into social experiences that are difficult, and pain, like physical pain, is the feeling of the lower world. Mental stress and pain is of the upper world, and emotional social pain is of the middle. So to cross this level here, you have to get used to emotional stress and pain. And again, usually if you take on too much emotional, physical, and mental stress and pain, your body starts to reject it, and it can go into like a self-destructive state, right? So you have to be very careful of that, to not fall down, because self-destructive behavior is how you fall down. People gambling with all their money and losing it, and then they fall down from like three would be excuse me, the physical level. Rank three would be where people would think, hey, I've got a little bit of money, let's gamble it, or let's get addicted to something, and then they fall down, right? So you have to be careful of like certain pitfalls around certain levels here, or maybe the lower level. Some people, here's the thing, some people never go higher than these. They kind of stay at certain areas, and that's when you notice, if you see someone who really looks like an embodiment of like certain things, like the lower level people. If you see a person who's got like tattoos and they're really jacked, and they're just their physical body, it looks like they've put all of their effort into their physical body or their physical possessions, like they've got a really expensive car or whatever, right? These people are stuck there, stuck at the lower level. If you see someone who's like on the computer all the time, and they just, the rest of their life is in shambles. They're very intelligent, but their life's in shambles. They probably don't shower or dress properly or eat properly at all. Again, this person's stuck at the mental world. And similarly, if someone who's just always talking to people, always on social media, always out and about with like friends or whatever, always in a social environment, but they lack possessions and money, and they lack intelligence and like skills and creativity or anything. They're stuck at the middle level, or everything to them is just like about, oh, I have to impress my friends, or what do my friends say, or what does my family say. And these people are stuck at the middle level, or they only represent it. As I said, life will force you. It's like filling a cup full of water. You slowly fill the cup full of water from the bottom up. That is what I found. I don't know if that's specifically as a man, because I think society tries to, and nature tries to keep women kind of at the middle level, unless you like go beyond your nature and like conquer that or whatever. I don't really know, but so you have to find that out in your own life. So anyway, I assume, because again, I hear these two, this Rank 3 and 2 of the middle levels, I haven't really. I mean, I think when I was younger, I experienced partially these because, of course, you can have experiences where you go through these, but most of the time, it's like if you're at a lower level, most of the time you're not going to be socializing, but every so often you will. Same way, you're probably not going to be like doing mental things unless you really want to. I've always been like a creative, entrepreneurial kind of engineering mindset person. So I've developed a lot of this, the upper mental level, right? Even when I was at the lower levels. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So I would imagine the rank 2 of the social level is it's like you still have a lot of social responsibilities, but this is kind of I would imagine it opens you up to like friendships, maybe even relationships, or like the start of that, like romantic and such. So for at least for a man, I think you have to get to this middle social level, rank 2, to at least cross the barrier of like being able to get into romantic relationships. Though ideally, you'd probably want to get to the third rank here. So I'll just type these in. Oh, excuse me, that's a 6. Probably you would want to get to that because women usually like guys who are above them, right? While women, again, start at this level, so that's why they kind of have that open to them from the start. And I guess you would assume the further out like a woman goes, it could be that could kind of restrict or at least make it so that they would have to be with a specific type of man. Anyway, and then I would imagine the third rank is to be you've essentially conquered everything, and you're build the same way that at the third rank here you're just building up more finances to like jump up a level. I think of it like a rocket ship, like you're trying to build up enough fuel to then go to you know go to another planet or something, right? Or maybe like an electrical rocket, an electrical aircraft. You're trying to gather enough solar energy or I don't know, electrostatic or 0 point energy or something to then go to the next level. So here you would just be gathering enough social connections, experience, etc. And then eventually someone's like, hey, do you want to do this extra job? Or hey, do you want to join this group? Or some kind of, assuming you wanted to go up the ladder in life, of course, you would go to this third upper mental level. Because again, some people just get stuck at one of these and they want to get stuck at one of these. It's easier to get stuck at the third rank of each of these areas than to level up and go to a higher one, right? Just because that's kind of how things work. So number one, rank 1 of the upper third mental level is the throat. So this is you taking on mental stress, and it's also you learning things. So the throat, of course, is language, words. You have to learn the words to learn to do the thing. So imagine you get like a higher level job, right? You have, or you want to do some kind of complicated thing. You have to learn the language. You have to learn the physics, the science, the ways things work, right? You've got to learn the numbers, the maths. You've got to learn. So I imagine this level is a lot of it's learning and a lot of it is taking on mental stress. If you work a job where you're not physically stressed, it's not a physical labor job, and you're not socially stressed all that much. It's not it's not like a job where you're dealing with people so much. Maybe you're commanding people. Actually, that'd probably be like the middle social levels. You're more. It's like your decisions are very important, but that means they're very stressful. So you need to plan and simulate things, right? So this level is all about like computers and simulations and mathematics and science and creativity and engineering and all that stuff. Artists, to an extent, I guess, would be around this transition phase, maybe between the second and the third, or even could be up in the third, depending on their work. Of course, you'd think more physical arts like sculpting would be a physical activity, so it'd be lower. There's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this. So actually, I've developed a lot of these areas here. I don't know what particularly I've kind of gone to an extent. I guess you could say maybe even like in my very spiritual days, I probably went up to the third rank and partially developed that. Though I think I have the first rank here fairly developed. So I'm curious to know once I've kind of conquered the second social level, if I'll just kind of like, if it'll be really easy to go up in the ranks in the third levels, or like how exactly that'll work. I imagine things will be a lot quicker. You'd think, and it's a bit like the lower physical levels took a long time. Like they took I think I spent like 3 years probably. It's like the third one here was quicker than the third rank was quicker than the second, and the first rank seemed to be like the longest. It took like a year, maybe a year and a half. The second one was like a year, and the third one was like uh, a bit under a year, maybe like 8 months or something. So I'm kind of feeling like the first rank of the second level, the social level, is going to be maybe only like, I don't know, like half a year or something. I feel like I'm at least over halfway through it, if not even more. I'm not sure. I'm still like learning to deal with like a bit more, social stress. There is definitely a bit of that that I'm dealing with, but it's a lot quicker because I know now. I know, number one, like don't let yourself become socially destructive. Excuse me, self-destructive and fall down the ladder. And because at this lower physical level, you don't have a lot to lose. That's the thing. The higher up you go, the more you have to lose. So the less self-destructive you can be. But it's also like I know that I just have to endure, right? And that's what the lower levels teaches you, is to endure. So I think that's why you can go up higher. But of course, everyone has a weakness and strength. So depending on where your weaknesses and strengths are, as I said, my strengths are probably around first and second rank of the third upper mental levels. That's just like uh, I'm always like reading and writing, and I'm always being creative and inventive and such, and imaginative. So that's like my levels, right? Now, one interesting thing is that if you are uh, a more like mentally dominant person and you don't have the lower levels worked out, you will appear very low status, very low level to people, because the upper mental levels are kind of complicated and weird and foreign and strange to people. But people respect, like, a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or some like high level career, right? People respect these people. But if you aren't at that, as in if you don't have the societal tickets, the things to back it up, the possessions to back it up, right? The money to back it up, people don't respect you or don't respect that. So it's like, I guess you could say it's easier to be a person who is lower physical dominant or middle social dominant. If you're a woman and you're middle social dominant, you will um, have a have dominance over other women, so to speak. If you're a man and you're lower physical dominant, you will probably have dominance over other men, so to speak, and have an easier time. But the thing is, if you're lower physical dominant, you'll have a harder time with the mental stuff. Well, if you're mentally dominant, you will have a harder time with the physical stuff, right? And then people who are middle social dominant, the difficulty for them is that they're in the middle, so they don't really want to dip down or up. So they struggle, they kind of like slightly learn the physical world while slightly learning the mental intellectual stuff, but they don't really. It's not like an upper mental dominant person falls like a rock and they're forced to deal with the lower levels when they're kind of taken out of like the Garden of Eden, so to speak, when they're taken out of, paradise, which I guess is like computers, like university, like libraries, intellectual environments. While a physical person has the grounding to build themselves up, but it's almost like they're the king of hell, so why would they? Their difficulty is getting out of pleasure and getting out of luxury and getting out of like it's a bit like they are the guy that's successful young, right? They're like the sports champion, the alpha male, right? And their difficulty is that they didn't experience enough difficulty younger when young, because they kind of won that. Then when they get older, they have to like actively want to learn the mental level, learn the higher level. While a person who's mentally, was gifted, and they think like, oh, they're so gifted, they're so special. Their difficulty is that they didn't actually do enough stuff physically. They didn't get enough physical experience. Maybe they didn't do their homework, or they didn't do half the classwork because it was too easy for them. They knew everything, and then they get to a certain level where it's like, oh no, everything's difficult now. And then I guess we'd say like the middle social person would be, the difficulty with them is when things stop being related to talking to people and interacting with people and dealing with people, when they're alone by themselves and they have to work something out on a computer, or they're alone by themselves and they have to like lift something or build something or like chop up wood or whatever. These people probably struggle, right? When they have to problem solve when it doesn't relate to people. So I hope this gave you an idea on like the levels of life. Again, you can track your own by what are you mainly doing, what's your job, where are you. Like if you have a family, like your own family and like a romantic relationship, you're kind of in the middle and you've got a lot of friends. If you are like poor, you don't have a house or a car or whatever, or you're struggling, you don't have a job, you're kind of at the bottom, you could be building yourself up. If you are in like a higher level environment, like you work in maybe a technology company, or you have access to a lot of higher level things, you're kind of in the upper worlds, right? If you've already conquered these things, so you can like just figure it out for your own life, and you can also figure out what do I need to develop, because it also relates to the organs. This top number 3 is the top of the brain. Number 2 is like the senses, the eyes, the ears, the middle of the brain. Number 1 is the lower part of the brain, the throat, the mouth, the jaw. Rank 1 for number 3. As I said, rank 3 for number 2 is the lungs. 2 is the heart. 1 is like the kidneys, and then there's like the liver and the stomach around there. 3 is like large intestinal, that's like the belly, right? 2 is the bladder, the hips, or excuse me, the pelvic region. Number 1 is more the hips, the genitals, the bowels, and basically the roots, the foundation of the body and the spine, essentially. So spinally, this is the that as well. So anyway, I will leave you with this knowledge, and I hope you enjoyed it and have a good day.